What do you do when your body, mind, and soul are craving peace, but you feel guilty for even thinking about it? I see this happen all the time, especially in women who are in difficult family relationships or trying to pick up the pieces after a family estrangement situation. Maybe an adult child chose to go no contact, or maybe there's been some other toxic relationship where there's been a significant amount of relationship trauma. Here's what I hear from so many. I know I need more peace, but I can't get past the guilt of wanting it. I know I shouldn't feel guilty, but I do, and I don't know how to get over it, and it's making me crazy. That's what we're unpacking today. Before I do, I want to tell you about a cool little guide that I've got. It's called Making Sense of the Mess. It will help you start sorting out and prioritizing all the parts and pieces of the mess that happens when family relationships break and when life turns out very differently than you expected. There's a link down below in the description, or you can comment mess and I will show where you can find it. The first thing we want to talk about in terms of guilt is what's behind all of it. In many cultures, in many families, there's an unwritten rule that loyalty equals shared suffering. When the family is in pain or in conflict or someone's not well, prioritizing your own well being or choosing your own mental and emotional health can feel like a betrayal. It shows up often as an unspoken sentiment that says, I feel like a traitor for being okay when the people who raised me or the people around me are not, especially if that is one of my siblings or my child. How can I be okay when they're not okay? This is not a new or a trendy thing. Have you ever heard that old adage, a mother is only as happy as her most unhappy child? I heard that my whole growing up. And it sounds sweet and loving on the surface, but it really does present the idea as gospel truth that mom's well being and her identity are somehow tethered to her most struggling child. As if it's never okay for a child to be sad or unhappy, or heaven forbid, have special needs like mine do, or that it's not okay for mom to be happy if someone else is struggling. And when we think about it, that's kind of ridiculous. It's also not sweet. It's actually codependency and enmeshment that can keep a whole family spinning in unhealthy loops for decades, and it often quietly plays out under the surface. It's not good for mom, and it's not good for anyone else either. Let's go a little deeper down that hole, though. Most of us have been socially conditioned to view family first as the gold standard and the ultimate moral compass. And don't get me wrong, healthy family loyalty is something I believe is severely lacking in our society today. There are an awful lot of people who give up way too easily, impulsively make permanent decisions with lifelong repercussions, and they often make them on repeat because they don't know how to stay, when to stay, or how to work things out in a safe and healthy way. And some of them also don't know when it's time to get out. When a family is toxic or broken, though, anything related to yourself is often touted as selfishness, even though it's not, and like it's a personal or moral failing to take care of yourself and your own needs rather than what it really is, which is a survival tactic. Here's where the guilt kicks in, though. We know what we need, but wanting it and actually vocalizing what we need challenges a lifelong virtue of goodness and self sacrifice that so many of us have been taught. And rather than questioning the situation, it leaves us questioning ourselves in a way that says, am I allowed to exist independently of this mess? Or is my own well being really worth upsetting the family's status quo? And what if other people don't get it or don't like it? But it doesn't end there. Unfortunately, that sentiment of goodness is also frequently manipulated and reinforced, sometimes in loud ways, but very often in very quiet and stealthy ways by those who were benefiting from your selflessness. And they do it to keep you in your place, to keep you serving them, and to make sure you don't leave. That doesn't always mean that a family looks or acts like monsters. Mine didn't, and they aren't. But there still was a lot of damage that was done through unhealthy dynamics. Like many women today, I was taught that my needs are secondary to the family's stability. Our job is to keep the peace, stay in our lane, do what we're told, and do what's good for the collective. And that kind of loops us back to that principle of loyalty means shared suffering. If one person is suffering, we're all suffering together. If one person is having a problem, we all share that problem. And of course, logic would also say we also all share in that solution too, right? If you're stuck in that kind of a loop like I was for so very long, there's something very interesting I want to point out. It's also something I didn't see or believe until it happened to me. I fully admit there was a time when I drank all of that Kool-Aid I just talked about. I bought into every bit of it and believed it with every fiber of my being. What I didn't understand, though, was that it wasn't a bidirectional principle. It only applied to benefit some people, but all were expected to abide by it. In my case, for quite some time after we adopted our kids, we were drowning in chaos. By that I mean screaming, yelling, raging, destroying anything that could be destroyed, and so many other things. And it went on all day, every day, 24/7 for years with no real break. Though there is a lot more good information about those things out there now, at the time, there wasn't. No one was talking about the realities of integrating children who had been through severe trauma into a normal family environment. We didn't know about survival behaviors. We didn't know what truly terrified children who were attached to no one actually looked like. And we also didn't know that loving them and doing the things that we had always done in the way they'd always been done made things exponentially worse. When my pain, my struggles, and my stress didn't match the rest of my collective family, or that my challenges were bigger than their challenges, or more that they could understand, or maybe cared to understand, they turned it all back on me. Rather than seeking solutions, they blamed me for all the problems. I was suddenly a bad mom, even though I'd been a good one for several years, and I was making things up. And if I only did this or that better, then everything would be fine and we could go back to normal. Yet through all of it, they continued to demand that I was there for them, that I showed up in a certain way, that I never showed up in other ways. And yet when I needed them, they disappeared. That created a massive amount of confusion and also contention. In my mind, the narrative was one for all and all for one, and we're all in this together and we're all here to help each other out. I had no reason to believe that wasn't true, as I'd seen it play out several times for my sister and others as well. But in reality, that rule didn't apply to me. I was only a servant. I didn't qualify for support. It wasn't my job to have problems of my own. It was my job to absorb all of the problems for everyone else. And when I couldn't do it anymore, all hell broke loose, and that's when the mask slipped and I started to see things differently. One of the hardest parts of this journey is accepting that you have the right to peace. You have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to protect your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And it's also okay, when necessary, to love people from a distance where they can't hurt you anymore. What I've come to understand is that peace isn't the absence of love in a relationship. It's the presence of boundaries. If those boundaries work and the relationship can stay intact and function in healthy ways, by all means, that relationship should stay intact. But when they don't, or it can't, different decisions sometimes need to be made. And the sharp rise in estrangement, in broken marriages, in dysfunctional dynamics says we have a lot of work to do individually and also as a society. So where do we start doing that? Well, peace is not a finite resource. Your peace doesn't take away from anyone else's peace in the family. If anything, it stops the cycles of dysfunctioning from claiming one more person. We also need to remember that good old oxygen mask principle. You've probably heard it a million times because it's true. If you're emotionally depleted yourself and you have nothing left to give to anyone else, there will be no solution that is ever going to work when you're in that state. So putting on your own mask first ultimately benefits everyone. The final thing that we need to understand about peace is there's a difference between broken and mendable. Sometimes we tend to feel guilty because we somehow think that our presence is going to fix what's broken. And we adopt the belief that if we leave, we're being disloyal, selfish, or it means we stopped trying or that we've given up. None of those things are true. We need to understand the difference between something that can be fixed and a situation that is broken beyond repair. If you're the only one doing the work, it's not fixable. If the relationship is broken due to someone else's choices, someone else's refusal to change, or someone else's refusal to engage in the solutions, nothing is ever going to change. And repair and mending require effort from both sides. If it's not there, your sacrifice is not a bridge to healing. It's just you out there walking the plank, and it's only a matter of time before they get annoyed enough to come and push you off, or you jump off of your own accord. Every situation is different. The details of yours are probably very different than mine. But I want you to take a minute and think about yours and where you feel the most guilty about things. Where is that sticking point? And then I want you to ask yourself, if I weren't feeling guilty right now, what do I actually want? That's a real question. And your answer to that question is very likely your next step. If you want peace, this is your permission to claim it. And I want you to have the courage to do whatever it takes to get there. But you might be thinking, my goodness, so much has happened. And these people have hurt me so much and so deeply and in so many ways. Why do I still love them? And why is it so hard for me to let go even after everything that they've done? This next video right up here will answer that question, and it will help you understand why you're really not as crazy as you might feel like you are for doing it. It's actually quite normal. Go ahead and give that a watch, and also be sure to grab that free guide, Making Sense of the Mess, that I talked about earlier. I'll see you in the next video.